Bienvenidas, bienvenidos. This is a really special video that I share with all of you. It took me a bit to convince myself I should do the video because I thought, who am I to share with you my thoughts on this incredible document, 40,000 words, addressed to one of the most important issues of our time, humanity's interplay with technology and our place in the world and the machines we create. So I wanted to step back, as always, and talk a little bit about the history of not just this encyclical, but why it was published on the date it was published. So Pope Leo took the name of the previous Pope Leo from the 1800s, and he was the Pope that first wrote what was considered to be a social encyclical. The Industrial Revolution had occurred. It was obvious that there was a lot of suffering, a lot of abuse, not just in child labor and having no days off. Imagine working 7 days a week forever. Very low wages. People were literally being starved and worked to death all over the industrialized world at that point. Pope Leo XIII wrote 86 encyclicals, but he is most remembered for his encyclical Rerum Novarum from 1891, where he just lays out and says industrial mechanization and modernity cannot result in the suffering of humanity. There must be a balance between enterprise, or as some called at that moment in time, laissez-faire economics, let the market decide, and some just basic protections for those that were becoming simply cogs in the wheel of production. So that was considered revolutionary, one that the church would take this position and say, we all deserve protections and we all deserve a life of dignity, no matter what we happen to work in. And it's considered the foundation of the social positions of the church that would come later. And so that's why that encyclical is so important. And so when Pope Leo XIV publishes his first encyclical, he does so on the 135th anniversary of that original social encyclical, and he is revolutionary in two ways. One, he presents it himself. Amazing that he would present it himself. That's never been done before by a pope. Usually cardinals or others will present it, but not the Pope himself. And second, he speaks in English. Also unheard of, because of course encyclicals in the past would be presented in Latin or in Italian, but not in English, which of course is considered the vernacular of technology in today's world. And I think that's probably why it was presented in English by the Pope himself. Again, he's from Chicago, he's from the US, so he knows very well how to get the message across. Also interesting that Chris Olah, one of the co-founders of Anthropic, one of the people in the center of the storm of AI, you may recall his company refused to allow this current government to use his technology for drone warfare with indiscriminate drone warfare, and for that his contracts were canceled. And so he really stands up as someone who said, this is not about the money, this is about the moral clarity we must have when using AI, especially in areas of warfare.
Artificial intelligence needs to be disarmed. The word is strong, I know, but deliberately chosen because this moment needs words capable of attracting attention, awakening consciences, and indicating paths forward for humanity.
Magnificas Humanitas, or Magnificent Humanity, is the title of Pope Leo's first encyclical, and that really goes to the core of what the issue here is. That humanity must be first, that humanity and our dignity must be respected. So I'm going to just quickly go through the topics. It's not one of the longest encyclicals ever written, but it's a solid work, and it's of intellectual vigor is how I'll put it if you want to read it. I will leave it linked below in an audiobook form, and you can spend the hours having it read to you. But it is worthwhile because it sets the stage. It really does set the stage. It brings to the forefront what we're facing right now. How many people have already lost their jobs? Living in Northern California, of friends and colleagues and others that are losing their positions at all of the tech companies because supposedly AI can do what they're doing. I think they're in for a very big surprise because the human mind, I didn't say this, Albert Einstein said, that intelligence is limited, creativity is unlimited. And so I do believe that we need to rein in and have parameters, just as the Pope says in this encyclical, of what we allow technology to do for us. So technology, and specifically AI, is a powerful tool, but it is not human. And it does not deserve to be able to have power and decision making over human beings. And that's already happening. The biases of the programmers we know are already in the programming of everything from facial recognition to different types of medical procedures and records that insurance companies and others are using. So it's very dangerous to allow something that we have created that has no oversight, that there is just no way of knowing what the decisions are based on. We need to rein that in. We need to have specific protocols, and we need to have, in my opinion, every single person involved in artificial intelligence and maybe in technology in general have a basic training, just like you have training in other areas, basic training in the good of humanity, in the moral compass we should all have. We're all making decisions every day in the areas in which we work. How do we ensure that every single person has a common basis, a common understanding of how to protect human dignity, how to ensure human welfare? And so this is a message that is incredibly strong, and it just sets the stage for what we need. At the very heart of the message of this encyclical is that human beings possess a dignity that no artificial intelligence or technology can ever replace. And so that is what needs to be protected. The basic dignity of human intelligence, of human creativity, of the human being. Every one of us deserves protection from this artificial kind of run amok systems that we currently have in place, especially in areas of warfare. In all areas, but especially we've seen the horrific genocide occurring in different places around the world, mostly by these artificial intelligent drones that decide to massacre innocents all over areas of conflict, and that needs to stop. It's interesting that the Catholic traditional doctrine of a bellum justum, which is just war theory, isn't even touched here, because there is no way to come to a just war when there's no human interaction or oversight of the decisions being made. So I thought that was fascinating from a legal point of view. Chapter 4 is a real parallel between Pope Leo XIII's Rerum Novarum, talking about the need to protect the workers in this developing revolution of industry, to protecting the workers being displaced by technology and artificial intelligence today. The importance of having programs and having other options for them, retraining, or other options for them to work, simply not just doing away with thousands and thousands of well-trained people, because many are engineers and many have studied, many have much to offer society, and so simply discarding them because companies think that AI can do their job is just not a tenable position at all. The 5th chapter is all about truth. So as you know, artificial intelligence can manipulate data, images, misconceptions, misconstrue, out and out lie, We know that that's happening all the time. You see it on social media. Things that absolutely did not occur are being presented to you as if they were fact. And so in the 5th chapter, the focus is we have a right to truth. So not only do we have a right to oversee and ensure the technologies being used are not hurting human beings, but we as a society, as a community, need to come together to ensure that we have the right to truthful representation of events, to the truth. We cannot have a society where there is no truth, where the truth is simply manipulated, where there's no way to know what is real and unreal. And so he really focuses on this, and I think that this is right on point. It kind of also, throughout the whole encyclical, there's a theme of deep social divide, a deep difference of economics, where the very wealthy are doing very well and the vast majority of people are not, and how unjust that is. And so although that's a bit more explored in the 4th chapter, I just want to really bring that out as well. The need for more equitable allocation of resources, equality, the opportunities, the most basic opportunities to a life of dignity. We've talked about this so many times, to education, to healthcare. Every one of us has a right to these things. And if we start from there, then the rest of the decisions are actually quite easy. And Pope Leo says schools are central. We must teach critical thinking. Aside from values and morals, every person must learn to critically analyze things and understand what is truth and what is not. And so that is definitely also brought out in chapter 5. If Magnifica Humanitas, this amazing encyclical, means anything, it is a call to peace. It is a call to disarm. And that's really what the final chapter discusses, the importance of taking this technology and reevaluating its use in ending human life indiscriminately. And so everything from drones to rockets to all the ways that it's being used to hurt and harm people, that just needs to stop. And so he is very clear about that, and he asks leaders from all sectors of society to come together and talk about the way to live in peace with each other. At no time is the encyclical rejecting innovation or technology, but it cannot be unfettered. It cannot simply let it run wild. And so you've seen the sci-fi movies where, it does run amok. But the reality is that if we created it, then we can rein it in. If we brought this into being, then we can decide what the parameters are, what the values should be, and how the decisions in these extremely important areas of everyday life, because now technology, of course, is everywhere, but we need to make sure and hold our leaders accountable, that we need to ensure there is accountability for the use of technology improperly, and we just can't allow it. I mean, that has to be part of every single platform of every person who thinks they need to represent us. So just as in the 19th century, the Rerum Novarum said industrialization is the greatest change to humanity because it took everyone from the land, brought people into the cities or in centralized areas to do nothing but work in factories, which was the most unhealthy place to work at that point in time, and with absolutely no benefits. So allowing unions and allowing fair wages and allowing basic protections was the call 135 years ago. Our generation, the Pope is saying, may be facing the same or greater threat in artificial intelligence. And so he prays and asks that we all come together to find solutions to ensure that our life is made better, not worse, by the technologies that we ourselves create. Will efficiency, power, and profit become the end of all society? We're going to have to decide that. And what this encyclical says is that is not what should be. What should be is first and foremost human dignity, the protection of the human beings, and their dignity, the importance of helping each other and coming together for peace. Thank you so much for sharing this and my thoughts on the encyclical in this video. Again, I don't have any books to recommend. I am going to include the encyclical in the description box for your own reading. Thank you so much, and I would love to hear what your thoughts are. What do you think? And as always, con mucho cariño, mucho salud, mucho amor. Gracias.